Right then, welcome back to the channel. Stephen Howson. 5 things that we learned watching United take all the points against Wolves. First up, number 1, Luke Shaw, centre-half. Again, actually, and another clean sheet. He didn't have a hell of a lot to do, but it was fairly comfortable for him. 1 block shot, 1 clearance, 2 interceptions, 1 tackle. Kept Maguire and Lindelof on the bench, which is interesting. Pre-match, Rio said Maguire should probably start looking for another club if he's 4th or 5th choice. Came on in the 92nd minute. Is Lindelof happy to be 4th choice? I could see Lindelof being more happy being 4th choice behind him. Obviously, Martinez still not quite sober yet from the excursions of winning the World Cup. He'll be back soon, I'm sure. De Gea played his part in the clean sheet to a big way. He had a couple of good saves that he had to make. The Neves free kick and Jimenez at the corner at the death. The interesting thing about Luke Shaw is it actually suits him. It takes away the element of his game which is the most frustrating, which is that he's very often seen jogging back into position from left back when he's been caught high up the pitch, which doesn't happen as a centre-half. You're always going to be furthest back. Could be actually inspired. I don't think it'll be a long-term solution to play him there once everybody's fit, but a very interesting way of getting the maximum out of your team. And what must Harry Maguire be thinking? Like, Jesus, I've been replaced as a centre-half by a left-back. Number 2, Rashfords Essential. The one that was disallowed was disappointing because you think, hang on, that's enough of a handball to disallow a goal, but the one earlier for a penalty wasn't enough to award a penalty. That sort of consistency in refereeing pisses me off. But anyway, we called him undroppable in the last 5 things video, but he was dropped, and that was due to, as he said himself, being late for a team meeting. I imagine that was today's team meeting, looking at the way it all played out. He says he overslept. It is what it is. It was then time for Garnacho to start. Garnacho didn't look bad. He looked bright. But when Marcus came on, it stepped up to another level. He got a goal in the 75th. Brilliant 1-2 from Bruno off the wing. Good determination and good skill to get into the box and get a shot away. Second goal disallowed for handball. I thought it was unfortunate, really, because a second goal will have been really significant. The amount of goals and assists that he's got in the last, 10 games or so feels like a hell of a lot. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but it feels like he's just in some absolute white-hot form at the moment. Clinical. He had 2 shots, 1 goal and 1 disallowed goal out of that. You compare that to Nunes, who's just getting wanked off all over the place about how much he does off the ball. Well, he had 7 shots last night, didn't score again. That's now 52 shots for only 5 goals this season. Okay. Number 3. And on that note, we need a striker. Martial started again. Don't think it was bad. His link play was pretty good, but not ruthless enough in the first half. He did have a good chance to score with his head, which he squandered. He was anonymous in the second half, got no shots on target. And off for Van der Beek on the 80th minute. United are toothless in the final third apart from Marcus. I think Anthony's looked poor the last few games, like really poor, to the point where if you had a functioning Jadon Sancho, I think Anthony finds himself on the bench. That's how poor I find his form is, and that's why I think he experimented with Marcus and Garnacho playing on the right-hand side. Anthony's got to be allowed to go through a dip in his form, but that also means that he has to be allowed to be dropped when he goes through said dip in form. I think that's absolutely fair and correct. But he has looked poor. United are desperate for a striker. I think all of the talk coming out of United at the moment points to the fact that we're looking, but it's going to be a temporary solution for 6 months. Well, we can go and try and maybe get the takeover of the club completed and then go shopping again in the summer, which is different to how the Scousers are doing it. They're spending the money. They're trying to make sure that they can get into the top 4 because it's going to be an absolute knife fight to get into that top 4. It really is. You've got a lot of teams going for not a lot of spots at the moment. And you're going to have to be bang on your game to make sure you can get over the line in that. Number 4, Wan-Bissaka. He looked a lot more confident in possession. I think he had less possession than he did against Forest, but he looked a lot more confident in possession. Seems to have a little bit of a growing partnership on the right-hand side. Anthony, like I said a second ago, Anthony still struggled. I think there's a lot more to come out of Anthony. Could have had another assist if Rashford's second goal wasn't disallowed. Massive improvement positionally. Not really much in terms of last-ditch tackles needed. Did have a couple of slide tackles that he did make, but nothing too drastic. I do feel like it's just shop windowing him for January where someone's going to come in and take him. And to be honest, I'm not overly asked if that is the case, in all honesty. I don't think he's going to be a long-term solution for United. And I'm not sure keeping him around is going to improve him in that sense. I would just say cut your losses, move him on, and bring someone in like a Malo Gusto that might actually be able to push Delo for a first-team spot. And finally, number 5, Ten Hag's top 4 Reds. 5 wins on the spin for United. Positive to come away from home against a new manager, Lopetegui. Has them playing a lot better. Very tough to beat. Wolves have got this habit of really making games dull and taking all the life and spontaneity out of them. And the first half especially, they felt like there was a lot of that coming through. But we got a result without being anywhere near our best. There is a platform for United to build on. And even things like the benching of Marcus today to show everybody who's boss and do not be late for team meetings. That could have gone the other way. He could have allowed that to bleed into being an issue during the game, but he didn't. I've been very, very impressed with the first sort of 6 months of Ten Hag's tenure. I'm certain there's more to come. I think if you get a striker, much in the way that you've seen the level of quality that we've got by having Casemiro and Eriksen in midfield, if you can get a striker of that sort of ilk, which I know is not the easiest thing to just go and get, if you can find a striker of that sort of ilk, my God, could we be a force. We haven't got it in Anthony Martial. We haven't got it in terms of the match fitness alone of Anthony Martial. But if we could find a striker that's of the same level of impact that Casemiro has had, my God. Paul Scholes said it on the broadcast for BT earlier. Sometimes when a team pops in and becomes a title challenger, you're aware of them being a challenger for a couple of years. United haven't challenged this year, and I don't think by the end of this year we will call it a challenge, but they've sort of moved into a position where it might be expected. And to me, that is the most important thing there, is that we appear to be a team that you can't take the piss out of. Got a couple of big tests coming up, and the derby is a huge one coming up. We'll find out what we're about. I think what we might have done is we might have turned a corner and started to pick points up where we may have dropped them. The likes of Wolves away, for instance. And we've got a pretty good record against the top 6. I don't think I've seen this United team play a complete defensive performance where we can really soak it up and hit on a counter. That isn't something I've necessarily seen to the level I think you're going to need it against Manchester City. If we see that, I think we've seen United in every single scenario. Then it's just about, can you consistently start performing and picking the 3 wins up? 5 on the spin is good. 10 on the spin changes the whole fucking landscape. So, massive positivity going into 2023. Ended on a high. Ended inside the top 4. Everything is on track. But there are gears that we know we can go through. And that, to me, is what's extremely positive about this. So, well done to Ten Hag and the team. Nice one to Marcus Rashford for seeing the year out with 3 points for United. And cheers to you lot for tuning in. I'll catch you in the next one. Laters. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, 5-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.